Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ridley campus, where today we get to find out some more about nature. We've talked about trees and grass so far, and today comes my favorite segment, a spot of bird watching.
Okay, I was born in Germany, but despite that I believe in the resurrection. I moved to Australia when I was 2 years old in 1976, so I effectively grew up in Australia. And, you know, for all intensive purposes, I am a very loyal Queenslander and Australian. I became a Christian when I was in the army at age 20, and was well discipled in a number of churches, and eventually felt the calling into ministry. I was even thinking about army chaplaincy for a while. It became apparent my giftings were more in the academic area, and so eventually I went on and did some Bible college, did a couple of postgraduate degrees, ended up teaching in a university in Scotland for a while, and then going to Crossway College in Brisbane, and then finally here to Ridley, Melbourne. I've also got a wife, Naomi, and she's lovely and wonderful, and I've got 4 kids, Alexis, Alyssa, Marcus and Theodore, and we live in Doncaster. And that's the basic overline of who I am. Australia's most livable city. I do like the culinary culture down here. I do like a bit of wine and cheese, so that'll be pretty good. And I like some of the sporting events you have down here, particularly the Australian Open. I also like the Melbourne Storm football team. So I'm looking forward to seeing a few games of them, and yeah, just enjoying a bit of the cultural highlights of Melbourne. The Yarra Valley, Great Ocean Road, that kind of thing. There are a number of reasons, partly personal, but one of the things I like where Ridley was going and what they were doing. The bringing down Brian here was certainly an attraction as well. I've been aware of Brian's career and his own academic work, which was a definite draw card for me. My own spiritual and theological journey has also taken me far closer to the Anglican fold as well, where I'd identify myself now as effectively Anglican. So those were the reasons why I'm coming down to Ridley, and being at a Reformed Evangelical College in the Anglican tradition, doing some of the stuff that Ridley does in cross-culture and mission and a commitment to theological education. Those were all big pluses for coming to Melbourne. Well, satire is great. That's just a form of humour. Irony can be very good if people understand that you're being ironic. Sarcasm, there's different species of sarcasm. There's mean, dispiriting sarcasm, and then there's funny kind of, the odd quip sarcasm. Of course, being able to know when you're doing one and not the other, that is the challenge. But I like to think of myself, my humour based mainly on irony and satire rather than sarcasm. I think this may be the case of a failure to determine irony. I did say in a very infamous video that Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer are the sentinels of orthodoxy, and in irony is what you mean is the opposite of what you say. So, yeah, no, they're not my heroes. There's a number in biblical and theological studies. In terms of from the church fathers, I'm a big fan of Irenaeus. I like he was one of the first real biblical theologians, had a great theology of the incarnation as well, and really slugged it out with some of the big heretics of his day. In the Reformed tradition, of course, I also like John Calvin, great theologian of God's grace, of union with Christ, and that sort of a thing. In more recent times, I'm a bit of a fan of N.T. Wright and his vision, and I've tried to offer a sympathetic, although at times critical reading of him. I'm also quite partial to some things D.A. Carson does, his mixture of Reformed spirituality, biblical preaching, and biblical theology. Another theologian I've really started to enjoy in the last few years is rediscovering Karl Barth, and discovering him not as an evangelical theologian, but rediscovering him as a theologian who is very conducive to some of the things that evangelicals are interested. And probably my other favourite contemporary theologian would be Kevin Van Hootser. And he's doing some very good stuff, particularly in the field of hermeneutics and theology. I frequently make jokes about many denominations. Anglican, Baptist especially, Methodist, and the Presbyterians and the Westminster Confession come in for a few things. I won't let any secrets come out, but you'll know when I'm having a lend of my Presbyterian friends. My ideal day off would probably begin with a game of tennis or a game of table tennis, followed by with a nice relaxing shower, and then probably just checking out a nice library or something, meeting some friends for lunch, and then probably spending the afternoon with a nice bottle of wine and a really good book. Yes, I am very good at beating students. I think all students need a good beating. Of course, the context in which that was said is in ping pong. I rather like beating students in games of sport, and I particularly excel well at beating them at ping pong. Yeah, if I'm smiling, don't believe a word I'm saying. No, simple answer.